somebody who has recently returned from Ukraine, Schreven from Orphans Aid International. Kia ora, thank you for your time today.
Kia ora, great to be here with you.
The latest on the situation in Ukraine. Now, you travelled there recently. Tell us about your experiences when you were there, Sue.
Yeah, well, we had a wonderful, wonderful privilege of being invited to the National Prayer Breakfast of Ukraine in Kyiv
Wow.
at the end of August. It was basically in the invitation of President Zelenskyy. He was the patron of this National Prayer Breakfast. And so we combined a few things. We thought, well, we need to go. We need to connect with some people. We need to take some aid. There's some things we need to do. So it was a tremendous privilege to be back in Kyiv, and we were there. We left just as that last lot of attacks hit. In fact,
Wow.
we were standing the last lot of attacks that have hit central Kyiv. We were standing about 200 meters away. We were very close to that whole area where the attacks have been hitting. So it's hard to believe actually that these attacks have hit the central Kyiv area, city
Yeah.
of 5 million people,
Yeah.
and the just devastating for the local people. Of course, many have been injured and hurt, but it's hard to believe that the conflict or the war has grown to the point that we're hitting the central area. So that's where we were for the prayer breakfast with the president.
Well, an amazing opportunity there, and it sort of really brings it home, doesn't it? I mean, you see the stories on the news, you know that there's fighting on the front lines, but to be in that space, it's not just a news headline. This is a place where you were standing. Sue, I'm very interested to know, because there'll be a lot of people connecting with this who are praying for the situation in Ukraine, praying for the people of Ukraine. What are the people of Ukraine praying for? What were some of the prayers said at the prayer breakfast?
Yeah, it was so refreshing because I wasn't sure how it would be, what it would be. So there was obviously the president that was there for part of it, and there was many state leaders, many church leaders, many military chaplain leaders, many leaders from around the globe, actually. I believe there was 50 countries represented. And what really hit me, just loved the pre-breakfast. It went for 3 hours.
Wow.
It was unashamedly Christian, unashamedly crying out to God, scripture reading, some tremendous scripture reading. I didn't sense anger. I just sensed God have mercy on us.
Yeah.
And it was actually very refreshing. People stood up who had lost their whole families. One soldier stood up, his whole family had gone, his wife and 3 children, and he was really offering his prayers to the Lord. And then, of course, there was a table that was just a memorial table filled with names of those who had been lost, including teddy bears of children.
Wow.
So it was very, very moving. But I think to the credit of Ukraine, it was actually they were crying out to God.
Yeah.
And they were genuine prayers for, obviously, for peace, prayers for the defenders of Ukraine, prayers for those who had lost family members. Yeah, many good prayers,
Wow.
as you can imagine, in a time of conflict.
It's such a heartbreaking situation, and really refreshing to hear, because there's different sort of political views, there's different geopolitical positions on what should be done or what can be done in this space. But moving all the politics to one side and saying, let's cry out to God.
It was actually quite unreal, and the gospel was being preached. It was some gospel messages. I mean, Billy Graham's grandson, Edward Graham, shared a powerful word, and telling the soldiers that were there that God loved them,
Wow.
to cry out to God. It was really powerful and very moving, and refreshing, Andrew. It was really refreshing and good to see it, because I thought that prayer meeting commanded a blessing.
Yeah.
It commanded a blessing, and people, even those that were, of course, there would be people in the room that wouldn't know God, but there was a sense of unity and respect.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And then, of course, after that, it was 3 hours long. We went to see the memorials for those who had passed, many soldiers and loved ones, and that was very confronting.
Yeah.
Very confronting because of the numbers and the scale of it.
Wow.
And then while we're paying respects, another the trumpet starts blowing, and there's a procession of military people and a procession of civilians, and another four coffins are marched out with people holding faces of their loved ones at the ends of each coffin, and they were young men carrying the young men, and I found that very confronting. And those I was with, we watched for a while and paid respects, but felt like this horrid, horrid killing machine that was actually taking a generation of men.
Yeah.
And this is what is the grief upon Ukraine as they lose their men, as their men are going to front line. There's no dads, there's no brothers, there's no uncles.
Yeah.
And I heard also that Ukraine had the worst death rate in the world currently and the lowest birth rate.
Wow.
So you're creating a generation that's going to need some help for a very long time,
Certainly.
for the rest of my life.
And I suppose many years ago, it all started for you and the organisation in Eastern Europe with
Yes.
orphans, and now a new generation of widows and orphans dealing with the trauma
Exactly.
of this war.
A different kind of orphan. We're
Yeah.
now dealing with a war orphan,
Hmm.
and potentially children that have been abducted as well from the occupied areas. So there's a lot of children. They say there's at least 20,000 that are documented, but they're saying it's more like 70,000 children that are in the occupied areas. That there's groups trying to get them out of those occupied areas. But we're dealing with children in our biggest area that we're dealing with. We did visit an orphanage an hour out of Kiev, and we have been helping them with some resources.
Yeah.
But many of those children have also come into Romania. So we're dealing with the children who have fled or been moved out of those areas. So our original home in Romania is about 6 hours away from the border.
Yeah.
So we've been well placed to be able to pop over, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
It's not an unrealistic thing to drive into Ukraine. So there is a whole new generation of children that are carrying, many scars, and
Yeah.
they are going to need fathers and people like you and I to be there for them. Basically, we need to be there for them.
This is such a tragedy, and thinking back to the beginning of Orphans Aid, and this was, seeing the images on our television screens, and I know this is what broke your heart, Sue. This is what motivated
Yeah.
you to do what you do. But I mean,
Yeah.
some people might go, "Oh gosh, that was back in the 80s, and surely things are better now." But actually, things from what you're saying, they are worse than they even were back in the 80s, with the children that have fled Ukraine, that need love, that need care, that need support. The need is as big, or perhaps even bigger than ever.
I think so, very much so. I heard that there's been more deaths in this current conflict between Romania and Russia, and deaths in both countries, that is more than World War II.
Wow.
That puts it in perspective of children that have lost their parents. But in Romania is an interesting one. I mean, just last week we placed two more infants, 13-month-old boy and girl twins, into foster families. So the needs are still very much there, just from children being abandoned.
Yeah.
But this is a whole new thing. This is a whole new wave of, okay, we need to equip ourselves. We need to be ready when the war finishes, God willing.
Yeah.
It's going to be very confronting. And I don't think we've even touched the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to be in for, and the grief that people are going to face when they suddenly realize, actually, there's nothing to go home to, and I've actually lost everything. And my husband, who was missing in action, is actually missing in action. He's actually gone.
Yeah.
So I think the grief that's going to come at later stages, we've got to be ready to help and be prepared to step into the chaos. And where we're stepping into the chaos at the moment is on a regular basis, is we have 50 children, 50 Ukrainian children in a community in Transylvania and Romania. So they've fled the war zones.
Yep.
They were in very dangerous areas. And we've had a school that we've been supporting, schools and camps since late 23.
Yep.
We stepped into that particular area with the school. Ukrainian schools have gone back to school. Romanian schools went back this week, but our Ukrainian school hasn't opened yet, mainly because we need the funding.
Yep.
So we've actually struggled because we've kept hoping, Andrew, that the war would finish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've asked for donations and we've had some wonderful support, but we kept hoping it's going to be over. It'll be over in a few months, it'll be over in 6 months, but it's not over. And we've come to the reality that actually we need to step in and step up for these kids because they didn't do anything to deserve their lives being blown apart and their family members taken, you know. So, and the ongoing, what's going to be the ongoing for them? But we would love to get our school reopened. So we've just put it on hold while we get some funding. We've got rent to pay, power bills to pay, teachers to pay. And these children, of course, they can't go to a Romanian school because they don't know Romanian.
Yeah.
So they, and they you've got some Ukrainian teachers that have come through. So we would love some help standing alongside these Ukrainian children, both in Ukraine. There's a huge number of areas we can help in Ukraine as well, but those that have fled to neighboring areas where,
So thank you so much for going there. Thank you so much for your bravery, your courage, your commitment to doing this, and would certainly encourage people to not just pray for Ukraine. Yes, definitely to pray for the human suffering that's there, but also be part of the answer to those prayers, supporting the work of Orphans Aid International, orphansaidinternational.org, of course, for more information. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thanks so much for the work that you do and for being on the program today.
It's our privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.